Hello and welcome to Ask GCN. I'm going to answer a load of your questions that you sent in to us and also maybe point in the direction of a video or two that will hopefully give you a slightly longer answer to those questions than I can do here. Right, let's hit some quickfire questions, shall we now? First up, Joshua of X. He has asked, have we got any tips on riding with riders who aren't quite as good as you, but while still making the ride fun and productive? Well, firstly, riding slowly and chatting to people that you like is still fun and productive, but I kind of know what you mean if you're trying to train. So what you could do is use the rides where you're riding a little bit slower than normal as your recovery rides, so you train on other days. You could always go out earlier and train really hard and then meet up with people that are a bit slower than you and ride steadily. Or the other thing that's really good on group rides, and I think should be kind of standard group riding etiquette, is that you have a few points on each ride where everyone can go and have a little bit of a tear up. So whether that's sprinting for a sign or sprinting up a climb, then the whole group can just come back together at the end of that section and then carry on riding steadily. So hopefully those three things might help you. Next up, we've got Sam Hughes, who has asked, why are pro riders never willing to disclose their power data, and what are your guys' functional threshold power? I would like to tell you, Sam, but I'm not willing to disclose that, if I'm honest. The reason pros don't do it is simply because it gives other riders a target. So for example, if everyone knew what Alberto Contador's weight was, and they knew that his functional threshold power was 400 watts, it means that all the other riders have to do is train to that point, lose a little bit of weight or whatever, and it means that they've got an absolute fundamental goal, and at that point they know they can beat Alberto Contador. So it really does mean that riders will be easier to beat, unless of course you're just the best in the world and no one can beat you, but you know what I mean. And mine, functional threshold power, I don't really know what it is now, and I don't think Matt and Dan know what theirs are either. I think Dan's was about 390 when he was racing, but that's what I know. Right, this next question from Adam Williams is a really interesting one. So he is a rower that uses cycling as cross-training, and he's a little bit confused because apparently rowers don't use much in the way of nutrition supplements, whereas he thinks that cyclists do. So in terms of energy gels, energy drink, and like a protein drink. So he's wondering why that's the case, because cyclists surely don't need it more than rowers. So that is, like I say, a very interesting point. So firstly, cyclists probably tend to look at professionals and what they're doing as kind of the best practice and try and adopt that as well. So that's probably why we're a bit more familiar. Secondly is convenience. So as a cyclist, when you're out on the bike for loads of hours, then you actually need to take quite a lot with you. And if you had pockets full of jam sandwiches and bananas and so forth, then that's going to be weighing you down, whereas you could just stick a couple of energy bars in there and away you go. So it is much more convenient. And the third thing, I guess, is that actually nutrition supplements are just normal food. They're just made in a different way. There's probably nothing weirder about an energy gel or an energy bar than there is about some kind of, off-the-shelf donut or whatever. But the actual idea about how much nutrition supplementation you need is really interesting. So this video that's going on behind me now is one about how much protein does a cyclist really need. And so we went into the supplementation thing. So if you really want to have a look, check out that video. You should get your answer there as well. Yeah, well, let's start, shall we, with why you need protein in your diet. Proteins are the building blocks of life. They're present in every cell in your body, from your DNA right through to your fingertips. And you need to consume protein because your body needs to repair cells and then also create new ones. Because while your body can build chains of proteins, it doesn't have the ability to create every amino acid that you need to build those chains, which is why you need to eat some essential amino acids in your diet. This is a slightly sensitive question from SWT Life, who's asked, the folds under my butt cheeks get sore. What is causing it? Is it my seat or do I need better shorts? Now, it's obviously difficult to diagnose this from that short question, but this video going on right here is how to prevent saddle sores. So we'll talk about the different types of saddle sores and then how you might be able to stop them. So I suggest that you take a quick look at that video and that should hopefully give you the answers, because there's certainly no need to suffer down there. There are things you can do. So good luck with that one. Now there is, as you'd hope, an etiquette to chamois cream. If you turn up on a ride and you've forgotten some and you're relying on a friend's pot to borrow, whatever you do, don't double dip. Now by that I mean dip, apply, dip, apply. It's just all kinds of wrong. So remember, dip once. Okay, staying with sensitive subjects. Brian McCullough has asked, he is new to cycling and he is having trouble staying back on the saddle because otherwise he tends to sort of sit a bit further forward and that puts pressure on his perineum. Is there something wrong with his riding technique? Does he need a new saddle or adjustment? Well, first of all, I'd say adjustment is absolutely key. There are loads of different things to look at here. Saddle height is probably the most important one, but also whether your saddle is flat. So you want it to be flat, possibly pointing down ever so slightly, certainly not up and certainly not really far down. And the other thing that will cause you to roll forward is to have to stretch too far to your handlebars, either because they're too low or because they're too far away. So those are the three things. But as I said, saddle height is probably the most important. If you click through to a video just back there, I'll tell you how to work out what your correct saddle height is. We'll start by adjusting the saddle height. Now, a great way of doing this is to put your bike on an indoor trainer, but you can actually do it out on the road as well. Just be careful. So jump on your bike. You want to put the heel of your foot on the pedal, and at this point your legs should be locked out. But we're also now going to actually try and pedal to make sure that your pelvis isn't rocking from side to side. Right, that's it for this week then. If you would like a question answered by one of us here at GCN, then either pop it in the comments section down below this video or send it in to us on Facebook or on Twitter using the hashtag torqueback, but spelled T-O-R-Q-U-E, because we're funny like that. Now, if you want to watch another GCN video right now, and I wonder whether you do, then if you click just up there, then you get through to a video about the new Trek Damani SLR that Dan and I were lucky enough to ride out at Flanders. So up there are our first impressions of the bike. Or down there, something completely different, we've got the top 10 things that every cyclist should know. Do you know them? You might want to have a look, make sure you do. Otherwise, make sure you subscribe to GCN before going to either of those. To do that, just click on the globe, it will be somewhere on this screen.